I see that our next speaker has arrived. Welcome, Jyrki. Jyrki Hakapää works as a senior advisor at the Academy of Finland. Among his tasks, he coordinates open science issues at the Academy. His background is in history studies, and nowadays most of his work days concentrate on support research results, social impact. Interesting area. And you wanted to use this?
Well, it's quite the same. Okay, that's quite okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry to run in the last minute to come here. I hope you all have had already a fruitful day. And let's see if we make the last hour an interesting one too. One of the reasons for running for the last minute, I have to start with the chair and all of you, that there was the panel discussion at the very end. I'm sorry, but I can't stay for that. Simply our 4-year-old kid will be left alone in the kindergarten yard. Otherwise, I'll be running there straight after this. However, I'm very happy to see computers on the table. I hope the rest of you take them out too, and your phones. At the end of my presentation, I have a bit of an effort to ask your opinion about a couple of questions, and we will do it through the internet. And it will need points from you written to the Mentimeter.com webpage. I show you the rest of the instructions at the very end. My point today is not to really talk about Plan S too much and about the open access and open publication systems. Rather, I was thinking that it would be nice to discuss with you and get your opinion a bit about the services and infrastructures that are needed to support Plan S activities in the future. But some words about Plan S. I'm fairly confident that all of you know about Plan S at this point, and you know the nuts and bolts, or at least the 11 principles that Plan S has prepared. Basically now 19 research funders across 4 different continents have agreed together on 11 principles, where the first to support open access. The basic idea is that according to our view, Academy of Finland is one of the participants that support Plan S at this point. The basic guideline for us is that scientific results or scientific outputs should be openly available for everybody. Now, especially for those research funders that use tax funding or submit tax funding according to open research calls, this is a very important principle. Taxpayers should principally see what is done with their funding, and therefore at least the funds that we offer for researchers to use should mandate open access. And now Plan S, the effort is to make all our research outputs, well, for mostly publications, open, to do this in a reasonable funding mode, so nobody will be pressed too much for funding, and also that we would make a promise that when researchers get funding from us, we will give that funding to make your outputs or the researchers' outputs freely available in the net. So here is the one shared aim, the first principle that's been hotly debated through the last months, that starting from the beginning of 2020, every research article that is published with the funds that we offer should be made free. Now there are at least a couple of ways that one can see and negotiate through this phrase. I will not go into the details. Here, the principle anyway stands. We are seeking a way towards 100% open access what comes to the articles made with our funding. The 10 principles take this much of space. Shortly said, there are issues that we are trying to solve to make open access reliable and sustainable for the research community. Firstly, we seek an effort that there should be always a copyright that supports open access, and licenses should be placed in order to make the research outputs available for other researchers and well, the whole society. Secondly, there should be clear criteria for journals and platforms how to make this open access possible. Plan S makes a promise to make an analysis and support new and needed journals and platforms on those research fields or research themes where open access possibilities are not yet available. As said, funders promise to pay those costs that in cases when journals and platforms act according to the Plan S principles and rules. However, we do seek limits for APC costs especially. We seek for alignment of open access policies, so each country or even each university wouldn't have their separate open access principles, but everybody would work under same rules. The principles concern all publications, but we do know that, for example, monographs, maybe conference proceedings to need another timetable, another kind of understanding of these principles, and they take more time to adjust themselves. Open archives, repositories, green open access is part of the Plan S plan. Hybrid model in the long term is not a solution for us. And we seek ways to monitor compliance and also use sanctions in places where these rules are not followed. So quite strong principles. The first thing is that nothing should be behind paywalls anymore once Plan S is put in action. There are different ways for compliance under Plan S. This is not one model choice, but at least 3 choices are on the table now. You might have seen that there was quite an extensive feedback period for these principles and the implementation guidelines published late last year. And these 3 compliance choices came out there. Now the coalition S that supports Plan S, so the 19 funders, they are going through the 600 and so feedback responses and finding out how to make the implementation plan better, and should these 3 basic forms, are they okay with the research community? But what comes then to the infrastructures and services as part of Plan S and making Plan S real, make it in action? I've taken 5 principles here and printed them to the screen that clearly set out that we need domestic or international services and infrastructures to support Plan S activities. Funders by themselves don't have that kind of services available. Universities don't have them. There are in certain cases available international infrastructures in place, but they are fairly young, I would say. And also their position in the research community is still evolving, as is their sustainability. Nevertheless, Plan S leans strongly to these kind of domestic and international activities and services. We need them to simply have a place for research outputs. We need them to coordinate the journals and platforms that actually act according to the Plan S principles and guidelines. We need such structures to find out where the money goes, how is it used. We need them to monitor compliance and sanctions too. some of these services exist already, but how to use them, how to cooperate with them, that's under discussion at the moment. And I've taken these phrases out of the implementation guidelines that were published late last November. And there, bolded, you will see various kind of statements, services, and infrastructures that Plan S has stated that these will be used in one way or another, and these are needed not only in near future, but in long term too. So firstly, point to make that San Francisco Declaration on Research Assessment and how open access or open science links to new ways of or new criterias for reviewing research outputs and researchers themselves. These two issues should be linked, but this means that DORA needs to stay and needs to evolve or develop its activities. There is a need to have the Creative Commons for the future. In the third place, we need, it's stated that directory of open access journals, directory of open access repositories are needed to support Plan S activities in more vague and well, how is it now said? Well, more infrastructural way. There are unnamed journals, platforms, new efforts on this field that are necessary to support Plan S. We need the work of the Committee of Publication Ethics, CLOCKS, ORCID, Open Citations, Sherpa Romeo, ESAC, many different kind of societies, networks, and activities are mentioned in Plan S implementation. And I wonder if anybody knows how to keep them sustainable, and is this list all? So far, at least these infrastructures and services are needed, but one example that is not listed here are domestic services and infrastructures. Are they needed in some way? Where are they? Do each country that, or each country that has a funder in coalition, do they need to create their separate services? Or can we manage with these international services? This question, hopefully, we will find answers in the forthcoming year and afterwards. But still the question at this point is, have we forgotten something? And how do we actually support these kind of efforts that they can continue and develop their activities? Now, Plan S principles state that the supporters of Plan S give incentives for these kind of services and infrastructures. Now, it's very easy to read money there, but there are probably other ways to support these efforts too. And let's see, that's the end. So now I have to actually click the answer is, because there's no answer. And this is now your part that I wanted to take. And let's see, it's the first time I try this, so let's see how it works. And now it works very poorly. There should be a number somewhere there. No, yeah, it will stay 0 because there should be a number to say in where to use. Sorry. Yep. Now I would ask you to, if you could take your computers, phones, and find the webpage www.menti.com. And firstly, there will be a question of code, 337777. And once you go through that, you will get this question. which infrastructures have we actually forgotten under Plan S? You can give the 3 answers. You can give the abbreviation, or if you're thinking that we need domestic platform, well, state that. And once you submit the answer, it should take a couple of seconds and the answer would come up to the screen. And now somebody please raise your hand if you have given the answer already. Okay, wonderful. Counting that we get 30 more answers still. Yeah, sure. If you're online and wondering, can you do this too? Yeah, just use the code 337777 and give your answer. It will be part of the work here. Wonderful. Somebody hit the same answer, or 2 people have given the same answer with the research data. Very good. And research data, of course, is not strictly part of the Plan S, but it's noted there that the research publications, that they are open access, that should include also the research data, and there should be services and infrastructures principles for that too. And as small domestic publishers come up with the answers too, that I think is a very strong issue, especially in smaller countries like Finland, where we have a lot of researchers publishing in our own languages. I do think that domestic scientific journals can work under Plan S, but it's true that the Plan S in the first place has been written probably thinking the international publishers and how to cooperate with them. Especially the funding issue, how to support scientific journals in Finland is a tricky one. But wonderful, we are actually getting quite a lot of these answers here. 24, 25. Now, if anybody's tweeting here and wants to take a picture, that will be wonderful. I do think that this gets archived into my system. Wonderful, 27. I would ask somebody to shout, what do you mean that when you want to have a new and better Sherpa Romeo? Anybody?
I didn't write it, but I can respond.
Sure, wonderful.
When you want to check in Sherpa Romeo whether you can parallel publish your publications, then often the information that you find there is not enough. For instance, the publisher demands that you enter a certain text into your research paper if you want to publish the postscript, for instance.
Right.
So it means that it's not enough to get quality data to use Sherpa Romeo. So it causes a lot of trouble for the universities if you don't have a proper database
Yes.
when you parallel publish.
This is certainly an issue that my kind of a civil servant just sees that there is the service and principally it works, but you know that there are these practicalities. And then I see the peer review being a big issue. Is it open or independent peer review? How to support that? I think this is in the heart of the whole effort. It's one thing to try to make everything open access, and other thing to keep the reliability of science, to keep the high quality of research on the table too, and not to forget that. And then we do need a well-working peer review system where, as you know, there's a lot of discussion, should it be open or not, and there are different scales of being open there too. And I think the points of meritation and how to review research articles and researchers that Plan S makes lean exactly towards this direction. However, there is no systematic way of addressing how to arrange this peer review. But wonderful, 31, I'm very glad, thankful for your answers. It's a good compilation of issues. Yeah, wonderful. Then we get the official picture and move for 5 minutes to my next question. And yes, a couple of more still coming. It's of course a very general question. How, and you can't find probably one answer to tackle all the 10 services, but what do these infrastructures actually need to work and keep on going? And sorry to ask for trouble, but yeah, we know. And that's of course our business, to fund research. To make this a little bit, and yeah, somebody was, thanks. Translate it to something else. Do you mean they need personnel? Do you mean they need some cooperation network, new skills, updates, as was mentioned, how to make them better? That's the question. Yeah, people is a very good one. If I may mention again the support non-APC venues, yes, I think that needs to be clearly put out. When we look at it as is green open access important part of Plan S, we at the Academy of Finland see it is, and our own feedback to Plan S has been strongly pushing that the green open access should be mentioned more clearly there and given a stronger place. Then I would ask about this when there are training, communication and people in big points. Do you mean that these infrastructures and services need the training and communication, or the research community needs it? Do researchers actually know about these services and how to use them? Would anybody want to give an educated guess or elaborate? My own feeling, yes.
I guess this may be a bit of a self-evident comment, but if this whole process is a culture change and a fairly comprehensive and wide at that, then the education and training needs to correspond to that. It needs to be wide-ranging, and it may touch a wide variety of topics, and we might not even know at this point how widely it needs to be applied.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And probably one of the Plan S's boldest statements and challenges is that the schedule is fairly quick, at least what so far has been stated. And therefore, how to arrange this cultural change in this schedule, or to agree that it will take a longer time, that is troublesome. Please.
I have a small question about maybe we have miscommunication with researchers. Because when I read Plan S, there's one principle is that hybrid open access is not tolerated by 2020. It's just 1 year around. But I'm working at Hong Kong Library, and we are making great efforts to make researchers know that they have great opportunity with discounts on IPS. So are we wrong that we promote these opportunities for researchers, that they are a hybrid open access for them?
Yes, this has been fairly strong principle for Plan S members. Simply pointing out that the difficulties that we get asked at least double funding when scholars funded by us publish in hybrid model, that there's no reason to accept that for us. We do know that this hybrid model has been the one mode that has been very popular among publishers and journals lately. And when the open access or the amount of open access publications evolved, the hybrid model has been the one pushing it up. Nevertheless, we don't see it sustainable in, well, near future even. But already the implementation guide states that for those publishers that have agreed to transfer their system towards more open access publishing system, the hybrid model may continue for, was it 3 years, up to 2023. And that was the suggestion of the first implementation guidelines. Now let's see how does it stay as it is, or does it change after the feedback? I wouldn't know about that yet.
Do we let researchers know that they have these opportunities for hybrid?
I think researchers should understand that the change is coming, and it's coming quite soon. And at least we as funders think that there are other ways to publish your work. Or if there's not, we seek a way to create such places in very near future.
On the same line, where is Nature journal sitting in this? Because, you know, I want to publish in Nature. Yeah. And according to Plan S, I will not be able to because it's not open access.
Well, so far so good. If Nature doesn't fall into the line of Plan S in near future, we might end up with a situation where we wouldn't fund publishing there. But the effort now is to align the publishers' and funders' views, and then also to find better publishing venues than Nature. The question is what kind of places we value as publication platforms and journals. And there is the traditional understanding of what are wonderful places or the best places. And now it is true that funders are trying to change that understanding. But there's been a lot of numbers stating that how, for example, if I remember right, 85% of the current journals wouldn't fall into the Plan S. That is probably the situation at this point. How will it be in a year? We wouldn't know yet. It's under negotiations.
I don't think that it's fair to force the researcher not to publish in prestigious journals, because it's very important for them.
The effort that we try to do there is to show that we value the other journals and platforms, and we actually rather value the content of the research outputs, not the place where you have published it. well, we wouldn't do it like that anymore. Simple as that. But then we need to change our own review models too and practices, and that's why linking Plan S to DORA is very important, and changing our review systems.
Well, this is exactly what I was about to ask you.
Yeah.
Because to me, the boldest statement in Plan S is not the timeline or not prohibiting publishing in hybrid journals, but this sentence. Coalition S members intend to sign DORA and implement those requirements in their policies. Yes. Really? Are you going to do this? Because this means, and I hope it means this, that you will do this.
Yes.
You will prohibit including a publication list in a grant application. Because you know what will happen if there is a publication list, the reviewer will read it, and they will only look at the journal names, and they will award Academy of Finland funding based on the prestige of the vessels. Yeah. So is this really going to happen, that you are going to not only sign DORA, but also implement it in the grant application process?
The board of Academy of Finland has already discussed about the DORA, and we'll see what their decision will be, I hope in very near future. This is not only about Academy of Finland, of course, in Finnish settings, also the university directors or the Council of University Directors have in their Open Science and Data program stated that Finnish science community should sign DORA. And then, right, signing DORA means that you promise to work towards developing your peer review or research assessment methods. It's still then the second step to actually take a look what kind of practices we can adjust to ourselves and what kind of practices we will use in near future. But of course, in our case, there will be no point of signing it if we weren't ready to then take a look of our practices and change them. Yeah. But I hope that we, in quite near future, I hope the Finnish research community finds DORA and starts to use it and sign it.
Because I really think that this is the big change that you are able to do. Because it's only because that grants you the next round of funding that people are really insisting on publishing their work in Nature and Science instead of on a preprint server where it would be immediately available to the world. So it's really you and not the publishers who are pushing the old prestige model.
That's true, it goes around. It's very hard to say where it begins, but we do have a role in changing that, and also we at the moment have a role in keeping the traditions as they are. Nevertheless, our reviewers are modern and they do know the development too, and some of them very well know and may have already signed themselves these principles and use them in their practices. So it's not that we would force our reviewers to do this. Many of them already know them and use them by themselves. Very good.
Okay. We have over time now, but
sorry for that.
Thank you, Jyrki, and thank you for audience. I don't know if you have many questions left for the...
I'm very happy. The word cloud looks very nice. Thank you very much of your participation. Apologies for the very quick visit to the conference. This was very informative for me too.
Thank you, Jyrki. We want to... Yeah. And I think the discussion about Plan S continues in various stages.
We are looking